Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft, and Dutch and I would like to welcome you to our Halloween Spooktacular. Dutch is all ready for Halloween, and I want to show you the Book Nook here that I made this week for Halloween. It's really awesome. It's been a long time coming, as well as really, I'm excited to introduce to you a collaborative project here, the Haunted Mansion Candle by Firelight Fables Candle Company. It is musty hallways, wilted flowers, and chilled air. Oh, you want to smell it? And we've been working on this for a long time. It really gives off that haunted mansion vibe. You have from now until November 23rd to pre-order this candle. If you do so, you're going to be guaranteed one of these candles, as well as being entered into a chance to win some minis and some other cool swag from me that I'll mail to one winner, which will be announced on Halloween. And the entry for that ends on October 30th. So make sure you get your orders in now. I'll have a link down below and some description that will tell you how much each candle is worth for entries. So head down in the description, check it out. Go to Firelight Fables Candle Company and order yourself some candles. All right, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. All right, the musty hallways, wilted flowers, and chilly air. You cannot beat that for a Bram Stoker inspired diorama. So we'll light up this Haunted Mansion candle and jump right in. Now, this video has been a long time coming. Patron of mine, Chad, and I had discussions about it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and you know, it sort of evolved over time, but one of the main and key features of this diorama was always going to be a big window or a stained glass window behind Dracula, rising from his tomb, busting up through the basement floor, the floor of a chapel or his mansion, and hovering in front of this window. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. Now I want to show this in real time to show you just how slow I'm actually using the Proxon. This is at about a 2.5 on the heat level, and it allows you to really get a very nice, precise, accurate cut. By cutting that hole out in the middle, I can kind of feed the wire in through, and I don't have any breaks coming in through the side of the window. You can see just how nice it's going to fit in there, all these pre-made windows by Shifting Lands, and it's going to look really nice. I opted not to do a stained glass back or add some other sort of stained glass to this because I wanted to have a really creepy red like sunset or a moon in the background. I ended up going with a moon, and it would have been obscured by the stained glass. Not that I wanted to speed the project up, but I wanted some really good details, and I figured why not use some of the Green Stuff World rolling pins. They've got this brick rolling pin. In a few minutes I'm going to use the wood rolling pin as well, and it's just excellent detail and quality very quickly. You can use a pasta making machine to roll out the DOS clay very thin, and then very quickly you can add a little texture to it, roll it, and you got yourself a really nice stone wall or whatever it is you're going to use for a rolling pin. On the back of the clay, I like to use a little bit of Eileen's tacky glue. I find that works really well to secure it in place. And this part is really satisfying. You just use a straight edge and you can cut along your foam, and it cuts that edge out really nice. I typically like to take a little bit of Eileen's tacky glue, mix that in with my clay sculpting tool when I'm blending the two together, and that will help kind of seal that up so it doesn't shrink. It's probably going to pull apart. You'll see here in the video that it pulled apart on me when I added these details, and it's not a big deal. I'll show you how to take care of that. Now with this scalpel knife, it's not an X-Acto. This is very sharp. Be careful. I went through and took the Dracula vampire rolling pin from Green Stuff World, and I cut this design out. And they've got lots of different designs on the rolling pin, so you can use these on mini bases or whatever you want. And I just wanted some really cool design in the wall just to break up all of the stone. So I cut out this design using that pin, and you can see now we have a little bit of separation the day after when the clay had dried. So all I'm going to do is take a miscast terrain tip. I saw this in one of his recent videos, and it's absolutely genius. Put a little bit of baking soda in those lines, and then some liquid super glue. Absolutely awesome. I'm going to use this trick all the time. It filled those gaps really nice, very quickly, and allowed me to keep moving. Now for a lot of the other texture and designs in this, I'm going to use just the good old standard ballpoint pen and draw in my brick. And don't worry if these things snap and break. You're going to go through and you can either secure it with a toothpick if you want it really solid, or just glue it right back in place. If you're enjoying this video and my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, now I'm going to use this pillar jig in this size and the next size up later on in the video. These were from Shifting Lands. They allow you to add some really awesome, very detailed pieces to your crafts very quickly. Now these have been out for a couple of years now. I'd say advanced everybody's techniques in crafting and skill level a little bit. Basically I just wanted some more designs up against the wall. Slap those in there. Here is the mini that Mike Horn painted up for me from Alchemy 3D Prints. I'm using this just for scale right now to figure out how big I need the hole in the floor. But you're going to see that mini painted up by Mike here in just a little bit, and he did a fabulous job on it. Again, you can see I had a little bit of a break in the clay and the foam when I was trying to straighten it out. It had warped on me a little bit. Absolutely not worried about it. First of all, you're never going to see it once I glue it together. I put these little dowels in here to help it stay in place and be held in nice and tight, but we're going to end up adding debris to the surface of the Haunted Mansion or Dracula's Castle, whatever it may be, and you're never going to see that crack. Alright, now I needed some more dimension, and I wanted Van Helsing or a Van Helsing type character to be coming after Dracula. He needed some reason to be blowing up out of his coffin and blowing through the floor. So Van Helsing is our hero who's going to be coming down these stairs. And what really made me think of this was actually screwing up. I had asked Mike to print out the Dracula Mini and paint it up at a pretty large scale. And the Van Helsing character that I had is actually from Reaper Miniatures, and it's really tiny. But I got this idea that if I had him coming down a stairwell into the back or the basement of Dracula's castle, he would be further away, and I want to add some depth and illusion that he was further away and coming up into the scene. So it's going to tie in really nice here in just a minute. Use that little trick. Instead of coating the whole back of these stairs in hot glue, I just made a little grid, and that formed them really nice and solid, and I was able to just save on some glue and time. Alright, now for the bulk of the back of the basement or the dungeon of Dracula's castle, it's going to be a muddy, earthy wall. So I'm basically filling everything in with aluminum foil. And then Sculptamold was nice enough to send me, I think they sent me about, not even kidding, like 100 pounds of Sculptamold. That's a normal bag. They sent me 2 of those large bags. So first of all, thank you very much for sending that along to me. The winner of this year's Craft Off, if you join me over on Patreon, is definitely going to be getting a bag full of that stuff. But I had to hit them up because I'm actually going to be doing a really cool Mordheim build coming up here on the channel. I've already started it, and I'm going to be using quite a bit of Sculptamold on that, so that's going to come in handy big time. Alright, I tried to color up the Sculptamold a little bit for a brown base in case it ever chipped, but it ended up coming out gray. Yeah, you can't win them all. No big deal. We're going to paint it all anyway. Now, where the window was right there, I put some black tape over it because I wanted to keep all the light out of those cracks. I didn't want that to ruin it. And all these little bits and pieces you see right here are from Loot Studios. They were nice enough to let me have these files so that I can make this diorama. And we're going to do something really special with that candelabra here in just a minute. Printing these off, you can see the scale, how kind of off that is, but once the diorama is done, it's going to be absolutely perfect. So hang tight and stick with me. Now, I'm not going to dive too much into all of the painting colors. Some basic browns, we're going really dark, basically be working our way up lighter and lighter. It's the same for the stone wall. Now, for these boxes, I did a video on how to make these a few videos ago. Go back into my library, check it out. I just thought it looked really cool to have Dracula's coffin propped up on these when he busted out of it through the floor of his castle. I needed a little bit of purple in there. I needed a little burst of color, so that's why I did it that way. And now to destroy the floor of the first level of his castle, We're going to use some tacky glue, sand, some rocks, and then I took some balsa wood and cut it to the same width of the strips that was in the Green Stuff World Roller to make them match. And now I'm super excited to show these guys off. Earth Pigments. Wow, you have to go check this out. I'll have a link down below to their website. Every color pigment you can imagine, they have it. The quality is fabulous. It's unbelievable. I can't say enough good things about it. The price is great. Go check them out. Blasting this with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol will help lock all of that into place, and we can keep moving on. And I hope you noticed that I did a little two-tone color in that pigment. You know, we want a lot of layers in this build, right? We have depth layers with Van Helsing coming in from the back, but we want depth layers in the muck or dirt as well. Here you can see I snipped off the flames of the candelabra, replaced them with some micro LEDs, and I'm going to hide all those wires in the back. You're never going to see it once it's placed into the diorama. And for Van Helsing, he had a hammer in one hand and the stake in the other. We're going to turn that into a torch to add some light into the cave where he's coming down to dispatch Dracula. And this is simply an LED, again, that I put a little hot glue on, and we're going to wire that up here in just a minute. All right, now I'm going to use the X-Tool 20-watt laser because I need to encase the diorama or the Book Nook in something. So I'm using some birchwood, going to stain it with some special walnut stain, and I put a saying on there that is from Bram Stoker Dracula. I love that saying, or the quote, sit tight, so you can actually see what it says, but it's one of my favorite sayings from that movie. Now I need a facade on the front of the Book Nook, and what I want to do is create more depth, so we're going to put a little piece of the front of his castle on the front of the Book Nook, and you'll see how I paint that up here in just a second. Now using a little bit of wood glue, you can see these teeth. It just kind of like locks together, goes together real nice, and I was able to kind of keep cranking along. Here you can see the larger pillar jig that I used to create some really large pillars, and I kind of hacked up a few of them to make them really long. You can see that right in the middle, and we're gonna glue those onto this front in just a second. This little archway, I had to rush right here because I glued that on, and I made some cuts on it so that the pillars would fit really nice and snug into there. So rushing through, that was a little nerve-wracking. Now this goes with what I was saying earlier with depth and dimension. I want to have depth and dimension in the diorama with the front of the facade as well. So we have some really dark features in the diorama itself. I wanted the front facade of the castle to be a lighter stone, so that's all I'm doing here. Going back to our earth pigments, I'm taking this lichen color. It's really what it looks like, right? It doesn't look like moss growing up the front of this building, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a dark green. I wanted something really light. After I sprayed it with some isopropyl alcohol, you can see how nice and blended that looks. Now to add a little bit of life, or what was life, to the front of the building, I'm going to add some grass tufts and some vines. And now comes the wiring part. So David over at Terraintronics helped me out quite a bit with wiring this up, just helping me figure out certain things. Put a little switch on the back of the box. We got our wires here, so you can't see them coming down behind his foot into the bottom of this, where we're going to run all the wires into the back of the diorama, and it's all going to be hidden in the box. Here you can see a Conway board and all of the wires that I had to wire up for all of the LEDs. It looks a lot more complicated than it really is, but yeah, and it was actually a really fun aspect of this craft. Now these star LEDs get really hot, so I glued it to a cork with some E6000, and that's going to be where the light is coming from the moon in the back of the diorama. Now I didn't want to glue this picture that I found from online right to the glass because it would have had the appearance that it was really like up against the glass. So by building this little bit of a, I guess, a shadow box, when you move left and right looking at the diorama, the setting moon, or the rising moon I should say, in the back of the diorama is going to move a little bit, and it's going to make it that much more realistic. Alright, now we move on to how we're going to mount Dracula to the diorama. I'm going to use this 1/4 inch piece of acrylic rod, and we're going to drill into the back of, here it is, the print from Mike Horn over at Alchemy 3D Prints. He did an amazing job on this miniature. I'm going to put a link in the description below to the Instagram page where I found this miniature. That's an amazing artist who designed this. He also designed the dragon for the mast of my airship. Now, using a little bit of super glue and some accelerant, it's going to set this acrylic rod real nice. I really lucked out. I drilled that hole perfect so that the angle of Dracula in front of the window was dead on. I was super, super happy once I was able to hot glue this in place. Alright, and the last thing that's left is to stick all of the wires into the diorama, shove everything in there, put the facade on, and flick the switch, and this is all set for our bookshelf. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like these dioramas or book nooks. And if you want to support the channel, head on over to Patreon. But more importantly, head on over to Firelight Fables Candle Company. Make sure to grab yourself these candles. I'll have all of the information in the description below where you can go pick them up, prices, and all that. Alright, until next time, I'll see you around.